So, Barbara Stanwyck was a lifelong Republican.
Yes.
Were you disappointed by that once you found out?
No, because I knew that the Republican, look, I thought, well, it's interesting that she was married to Frank Fay, and he hated Roosevelt and called him a dirty Jew commie. And, she was not for Roosevelt, and she hated the fact that taxes were going up, and her attitude was, if I could pull myself up out of what I did, then anybody can. And so she didn't really believe in the government helping people in the way that Roosevelt espoused and put forward and basically changed the world. And but it was, I used it. I could write about it, and I could write about Roosevelt, who was not of my time, but I knew how important he was to my parents. And like so many people, I remember my mother knew exactly where she was when he died, and weeping, and she'd grown up with him practically. And
did you make any judgments about her politics? She wasn't all that political, what comes through in your book.
No, because she was too smart, unlike her husband, Robert Taylor, who was ultimately used and went along with it by MGM to be a friendly witness in Washington. But Stanwyck was much smarter than that, and much more savvy or canny, and she made her way. But I wanted to write about what was going on around all of this. I wasn't just interested in writing a movie star biography, and I didn't. So I write a lot about the unions, and I was able to write about what Roosevelt did because her politics were so different. But you have to remember that that republicanism was of another time. It's not the republicanism, I don't want to offend anybody, it's a different kind of republicanism than today.
As today's Democrats are different
exactly.
from the Democrats
of
back then. So it's a different story.
Right.
What did you like best about her?
Well, I liked her toughness, I liked her vulnerability, I liked how, apart from those couple of things, I liked that she was honest. Every friend of hers who I interviewed and came to know and to love were all wonderful people. And, Arthur Lawrence once said to me that, to be human in Hollywood, you have to be superhuman. And she was very human, and she was likable. Even when I'm looking at her up on the screen, I know her so well. I know, it's amazing. But I know her tricks. Just like once she said, she knows every one of Lionel Barrymore's tricks, even though she adored him and worshipped him. I know how I see her working, even though it's as if you were to say, all right, I'm going to study this, and then you're just drawn into it, you're just sucked into it because she's so good. But, she was just a straightforward, and she was good company. I admired her. I really admired her. And she was
very, not educated, but extremely bright, not that the two have any connection at all.
Well, she wasn't formally educated. Her education ended she went to PS 152, and that ended at 8th grade. She did not go to high school. She did not go to Erasmus Hall High School, for any of you who've grown up in Brooklyn and have transplanted yourselves here. She did not go to Erasmus Hall High School. But she did something that was infinitely more interesting. She educated herself. She read and read voraciously, and she taught herself what to read and how to think, coming from nothing. Even though there was an earlier family where there was a mother and a father, and she had 3 much older sisters, and they all came from a very old New England family. She was a daughter of the American Revolution, which nobody knows about her. And she came from this old New England family, and then the family sort of broke apart because they moved to Brooklyn. The father was a mason, and they needed work. And then, of course, the family fell apart because the mother was pushed off a trolley when she was pregnant and died of peritonitis. And the father ran off because he couldn't deal with the fact that by that time he had these 3 older daughters who were like 18, 19, and 20 years older than Stanwyck. But she had a brother who was 2 years older. So when the mother died, her brother was 6, she was 4, and the mother had been pregnant with the 6th child.
But what you're describing, in a sense, is an abandoned child. She was abandoned.
She was abandoned, right.
Did she ever get over that feeling?
I think about this a lot. I don't think that she ever got over it, but I don't know about everybody here, but you know, if you think about the things that haunt you, at a certain point in your life, you're able to put them aside. And they don't stand in your way. But eventually, if you really don't cope with them, they come back to haunt you. And that's what happened to her, and that's what I'm going to be writing about in Volume 2.
But some people I met through you, and I asked them about Stanwyck, and a theme emerged that she would turn against you. If you'd said something she didn't like or did something she didn't like, she would abandon friends who had been friends for a long time.
Well, I write about that because I interviewed this woman named Walda Mansfield. There were the 3 girls who worked together in shows in New York. They were showgirls together, and one was Ruby Stevens, Barbara Stanwyck, and then the other was Mae Clark, and then the third was Walda Mansfield. And I found Walda, thank God, and because she was the sort of key to, she was the rosebud for me. She sort of opened up Stanwyck as a real person, and I just sailed right through inside. And Walda told me that, you know, when they were in New York, they made this pact that they would act in shows together, and they did. And there came a certain moment when Walda first went to Hollywood, and then Mae Clark went to Hollywood, and then Stanwyck came with Frank Fay. And by the way, she did not want to go to Hollywood because she had this huge success in burlesque, and she was now a big star on Broadway.
Burlesque, a play, not burlesque.
Yes, not burlesque, the Minskys. And Walda met her at the train and was so excited to see her old friend, and Stanwyck was not interested and didn't want to have anything to do with her. And then after having the trio being so close in New York, Stanwyck didn't want to have anything to do with Mae Clark. And I will write about other people who had very long-term, intense friendships with her, and she basically closed the iron door because there was something that you did that she felt there was some kind of a betrayal, and that was it.
That's a little scary, though, that ability to turn on you.
Well, when people say, well, she was very loyal. I mean, she did have that loyalty, but if she felt that she had been crossed or something had happened, that was it.